Harris. We're looking to get some ideas and thoughts on what equipment people are using, what they're going with. We're getting ready to order a bunch of stuff, and been renting some equipment the past couple weeks before we make up our mind. And that's the main reason I wanted to kind of get in touch and chat with everybody and see, maybe get a consensus, make sure what we're getting is going to be what we want, adequate, and all that, and then kind of go from there.
Well, what equipment have you been renting right now?
Right, we got a guy locally who runs a AV company. He's actually been, I didn't know this, but for a while he's been helping churches get online. So we were actually running a Black Magic first broadcast from him. So it's been pretty nice having that. We're looking to, there's a new Panasonic camera out that I've spec'd out and looks like it's going to work for us. Mainly like it because it's got all the specs we want, plus it supports NDI, which is something I really want to try to leverage for what we're doing. While we have few people in the church, the more things I can automate and run from one central location, the better off we'll be. As we go on, we're allowed to get more people back in the church. Obviously we plan to build our team out, expand this a bit, and get some more people involved. But right now, just trying to focus really on making sure that one or two people can manage everything that needs to happen during the week. So I got Andrew Weathers here. He's my guy who stepped up, helped me out. Been a big help to me, so I brought him in tonight so we can kind of get some ideas here on what we need to do.
Well, and I'm gonna hand this off to some of the other guys too on this question, but I'll start off saying, when you're looking about what to do and what equipment to purchase, I think you got to ask, and what you've been using some, so you'll already got an idea, how does this fit into how I'm gonna use it in my room? And I know Phoenix First is a bigger room, and I don't know if the Ursa is the best, which is a really great camera, but adaptability and volunteer based. And Derek, I'll let you chime in on that. I don't know if the Ursa going forward would be the best one. And I don't know which Panasonic it is. If you like the Black Magic, there is, I know Derek has some of the studio ones he uses, but also there's some other options depending on your budget. Derek?
Yeah, with us, the Black Magic stuff's pretty crew heavy. And then the technical side, they're real finicky. If you don't have everybody set perfect, they don't like talking to each other. So if you don't have a crew and if you don't have people with background, or at least somebody to pull in with background with Black Magic, especially in a multi-camera format with the switcher and all, I'd go another route, especially, I think he mentioned that he's wanting to use kind of AI, artificial intelligence type stuff with a low crew count. I would steer clear of the Black Magic stuff.
Mm-hmm. And then Ethan, did I see you raise your hand? Have you used some of the stuff?
Yeah, actually, I was going to say, with that, you were talking about being crew heavy. A lot of the Black Magic stuff is, but their new stuff, particularly the one individual, it's the Black Magic Mini, ATM Mini Pro and the ATM Mini. The Mini is what we own right now, and we're at the $300 price tag, and then the Pro is at the $530 price tag, if I'm correct. That stuff is really plug and play. Like, it is insane. I have taught our guys in a matter of less than 30 minutes, and they've never had a background in media. Like, it's literally pushing buttons. It's super easy. So in saying that, like, if you're looking for plug and play for a video switcher, that would be the best. I would suggest going with that, only because it is so, like, it's super easy, and it tells your computer that it's a webcam. So, like, you can go straight to Facebook from that device itself. You don't even have to have an uploader, encoder, nothing like that. It is super simple.
Yeah, and that goes into this, and some of the guys, if you want to jump in to maybe correct me if I say this the wrong way, but when you're looking at equipment, so we started talking about cameras, and then Ethan brought in the switcher. When you're talking about equipment, you really got to think about how all the pieces will fit together and how you want to deliver it. And one of the pieces that I think, and I'm looking for agreement on this, is I think that what Ethan said, the ATM Mini line of switchers right now, have been an amazing gift to online church. For what he said, it comes right out of the USB into your computer. Don't have to have like a capture card. You can put 4 HDMI imports things into that and use it as a switcher, and then also have it as a webcam and go straight to Facebook without having to have a Wirecast or an OBS. But those aren't bad to have either. So that ATM Mini, they're actually on back order now and pre-order. And I don't know if anyone's actually using them right now. I know a couple of y'all have the ATM, the ATM Studio. Some of y'all have that maybe. But the minis are really great. But then it plays into the camera. And if you're looking at doing a 1 camera setup or a 2 camera setup, personally for churches just getting into this, I love the Canon XA line. I don't know if anyone's ever used some of those. I know JVC and Panasonic also have similar lines at that. They're right at about $1,000 or maybe $2,000 that you can use and are easy setup, but also have a couple more features. And so I'm going to ask if one of the guys at another church what they're using right now and share how they ended up with those cameras.
I'll say this: we have 4 cameras. 2 of them are those Canons, about $1,200 Canons that have worked great. But I think we're actually using this as a launching up to the next one. So if anyone's interested, we might have some on discount.
Hey, Michael, I dropped a little link in the chat to the camera. One of the cameras we're looking at. That's going to be like the one on the tripod. We're going to grab a PTZ also, but I don't know if you want to take a look at that. It may help you out.
I will say when you're going PTZ, and I don't know, I'm looking at some of the bigger churches that have had this and done this. Sometimes it's hard to color match or get the PTZ to look just like your Panasonic camera, if that makes sense. And so it's obvious that you're switching between 2 different types of cameras. Anyone else know what I'm talking about there, or can elaborate on that, why that is? Okay.
The color correction is the hardest part of the job, I'll be honest.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, right now it's my main reason of wanting to add a PTZ in is just for in case I'm there by myself and I need to handle a few things. I'm just trying to think ahead for times when you got to do things with one person show kind of thing. If something comes up, so I just want to be able to do a couple different scenes just by myself, or whoever's running, not necessarily me. If I get hit by a bus, somebody needs to be able to pick it up and run with it. So that's kind of the reason we're going with the PTZ. Right. Eventually, we may do like a multi-scene or multi-camera switch around thing, but for right now, I've just been thinking about how to do things with the minimal amount of people.
Well, let me transition this question and see if it kind of goes there. And is I would just right now walk away from here and just give you a tier level of cameras. And that's, I'm going to do by price range, and because I'm trying to name each camera brand with theirs. You can get an entry level into one, you have your phone. That's your first start. And there's nothing wrong with a phone. Most of our phones right now have amazing cameras on them. So that's the starter level. Then you're looking at, if you're using a camera, you can get under $200, a Canon Vixia, something like that. That's a great starter level. And I think you're already past that. I wouldn't go from an Ursa to a Vixia. But you would look at that next level, which is from 1,000 to a little over 2,000 there. And you can get a lot of cameras. Sony, Canon, JVC, Panasonic, all have cameras that fit in that range or in that prosumer. Then after that, you're looking at doing some more complicated cameras that I would stay out of that range. The PTZ cameras, the ones that are great, are about $1,600, and then a $600 controller. So you're kind of keeping there. But if you keep in those kind of tiers, I really think that second tier, spending $1,000 to $1,900 on a camera will get you good quality, get you one that people can use, and you can set up for dummies and let them run with it. And then where I want to kind of transition to talk about is, though, but after the camera, you got to think about where it's going. And I would be curious to see I know what some of y'all use, but what some of you are using as your encoder software, if you're going straight to Facebook through webcam, or if you've got like an OBS or Wirecast or something else. So is anyone else using something like that?
I can speak a little bit about the Canon, the XA series, because we are currently right now we're testing out the XA55, which has a SDI output, which I think he mentioned maybe wanting, and it works great, and it's an easy kind of user-friendly camera setup for us, I believe, that we have, and what we're doing now is our setup before all this is we just had one static camera shot, and we were running into Blackmagic broadcast web broadcaster, and just one camera feed into OBS, and of course we put in our pre videos into OBS and ran it that way, and right now we're doing different things with camera angles and kind of pre-recording our services to kind of get a bigger with the camera angles and stuff like that and pushing it live. But also, like with those cameras, like I noticed the Panasonic, it had, shoots in 4K. So, and of course we always use things for different, the cameras that we have, we use it for different things. So if we're doing a pre-recorded thing, so say if you wanted to shoot in 4K, and you can render that down to 1080 in your post-production, and then you could zoom in and not lose any quality and kind of do different angles to kind of make it look like you have more cameras if you record it in 4K, so so we always tend to think of it as, not just, okay, this is just one camera. I mean, for us here, we don't think of, okay, this is just one camera, it's just going to sit here, but how can we use it in different ways? And so we always try and keep that in mind. But and the XA55 shoots 4K, actually, because of course we're not pushing 4K through Facebook, but it's worked great for us, and I've heard good things about the Panasonic stuff too. But we have Canon there, and then we have a few mirrorless DSLRs that we're using to shoot as well. But if that helps or answers anything.
Well, while we could probably spend all night on cameras, and we'll come back, and I think I'm gonna talk to James later as well, because we're gonna already have a chance to talk later. But talking about online streaming, it's one piece of the puzzle that fits into where we're at right now. Because just like Sunday mornings was just one piece of how we did church, so is how we do online streaming. And I really just want to give this idea out there, and if you have questions or if anyone wants to add to this, is really this hub mentality that we got going forward. And that's how this all interconnects, because we're coming to find out that we've always been an online church. We're just now but with a location there. We now realize that location fits into, we're not two separate entities. We're all one in this kind of hub mentality. So how are some of you guys doing some of the other functions of the church, not just the Sunday morning there, but how some of y'all, let's talk about small groups or discipleship. How are some of y'all doing discipleship right now in the past month or 2 months?
I'll jump in on the small groups conversation. So here at Highlands, we typically do small groups in semesters. And so we kind of had a choice kind of at the beginning of how do we pivot inside this sort of spring semester to do groups using technologies to connect. And so there were some churches that were kind of talking about trying to like centralize on like a platform, get all the groups onto one platform, obviously still in their groups, but just kind of as a way to either track it or to kind of offer the technology. And we said, man, here's a list of technologies you can use, and let the small group leaders, run with it. And so it looks a lot different. Some of it's video calls, most of it probably are, but we have Facebook groups. We have, even iMessage. I mean, even text messaging can be used to connect. And so we just look at it like, man, if people are connecting, that's the win. And of course, on a graduated scale of interactions, a video call is like the most ideal since we can't meet in person. So we just kind of encourage group leaders to, find technology for themselves. Here's a few kind of your standard Skype, Google Meet, Zoom, Facebook, that kind of thing, social platforms, and just remind them, here's some things you could do. We're not paying or licensing anything central to try and do that. We're just letting them make those decisions. And then from a semester standpoint, as the kind of a couple of weeks in, we just decided to kind of pivot into using the term season rather than semester. That way existing groups could continue. New groups could also come online faster than waiting for like our summer semester to start. So not really sure how we're going to handle that. Well, once we kind of resume normalcy, some talk of, does semester just go away, and we kind of start that. We like semesters because of the start and end, right? You give people like the commitments, 13 weeks, and that's a lot easier. If I say yes, then you're jumping in this group that's been a thing for 8 years. It's also even uncomfortable if you join a group that's been around a long time, just, socially. So anyway, long story short, we opted to kind of shift into a season mindset as well, and just kind of let those groups continue. Any group leader that wants to end at this normal semester mark, that's fine. But trying to encouraging as many small group leaders as we can to just keep that group going. It is essential. It's the heart of the church, our small groups. And so those are our best chance of, success in resuming, normalcy in church world, if those continue normally. If we have to rebuild groups, after this, it'd be a tough deal. So trying to just preserve those as best we can.
Has anyone else had some successes with small groups or discipleship using technology?
I mean, basically what he just said, we got in touch with every leader and said, you need to find a way to stay connected with your people, and pushed it all down. Because, as pastors, it's not for us to do all the ministry. It's for us to empower them. So the more that we were able to empower them, and a lot of times that's because our older people, they're not going to get on Zoom, but they can call one another, and some of them can text message. And then our younger groups, oh yeah, Zoom all the way. So it's all been about pushing ministry down and allowing them to do the ministry.
On a practical side, have y'all, as you've pushed, that you're saying y'all are giving control to kind of the leaders of the groups to say, hey, find a way to connect with your people, because it's really about making that connection. What are some of the practical policies, or hey, here's the boundaries of how you can use stuff, or what you can do or cannot do?
Yeah, we hit on one, and I don't know that we fully explored everything yet, but one of the ones that came to our attention, that we actually was talking to a friend of mine who kind of my counterpart at North Point in Atlanta, and he said they were looking into COPPA, which is the Child Online Privacy Protection Act. And COPPA protects children under the age of 13. If you create experiences for children online, and you're intentionally attracting children to, say, for us, we have children's church specific kids content that we push out. If you're intentionally attracting kids to an online experience, there's some things you really need to comply with. And it's mainly if you're capturing data from those kids, so private, personally identifiable information from kids. So if a kid's filling out a web form, maybe that they got saved or something like that, that's where you really cross the line and have to start compliance with COPPA. But we actually we're looking at that, not so much from that perspective, because we don't offer a connection card to kids. We're looking at it from a standpoint of small groups, because I lead a 6th grade boys small group. My son is his group, but I'm the leader of it. He's the student leader. I'm the parent. And so we have three guys that lead, and then the 3 student sons who kind of lead the group. Well, we're using Zoom for that. Well, I'm emailing parents a Zoom link, but I'm basically, once those kids get on Zoom, I can see their face, which is personal identifiable information. I can see their name, and in some cases their phone number. Now it's a different platform, so we're consulting with our attorneys to go, is that on Zoom or is that on Highlands? We initiated it, so we don't know. So we're just trying to ask those types of questions as best we can. Some of it's a little bit messy, just go, kind of a thing, but you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot. You don't want to overstep, and certainly you don't want to break the law. So finding a way to be sure. That's just one little thing we've discovered, and it's kind of started us asking some other questions too around groups. We have a standard accountability practices around groups, and I'm happy to share those with you guys if any of you need it. You can shoot me an email, and I'll get those resources to you. But so those have kind of stayed in play, right? As best we kind of can do. But other than that, there's definitely some things to on the tech front too.
Well, on the, I almost mentioned this about if you're doing Zoom or anything you're doing, privacy and being careful of where you put the link out there. And like for Zoom, there's a new security badge where you can turn off the share screen. You can have a waiting room. I would keep in mind when you're doing discipleship through video calls, which I think is awesome and something that should stay even after we're back in our building. I think there's some people that would love to do Zoom Bible studies at different times as opposed to going in person. Now, I'm saying keep both because I think some people have really enjoyed this connectivity and being able to, they couldn't be apart because of their crazy schedule to drive to the church or even arrange babysitting. If you've got a young family Zoom group and now they're all at their house, like right now, my kids are up front, hopefully playing video games and not tearing things apart. But, you have that ability instead of trying to find a babysitter. So I would just say keep that in mind. If you've never been to on a small group of Zoom, I would give it a shot. I know David Strahan for the Alabama district is doing a men's talk after this one. You can find those links on the Alabama Facebook pages. If you haven't been in one, try it out just to see what it feels like and see how it can be. So it won't
This
be
is one.
Yeah, this is kind of one too. But,
this is it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
You can try it out, and it won't be for everyone. And everything we talk about, you got to remember that there's not going to be a magic bullet that hits every age group and every demographic. So you've got to be able to pivot and see, okay, am I covering everybody? And this is one way to cover it. I got a question here. I'm going to backtrack here for a minute, and just because I'm curious, is anyone? I think Pastor Judd Foley, you're using Switcher Studio. And I don't know if anyone else is using Switcher Studio with just all cameras or multiple cameras, or Pastor Derek, maybe you used it or you had My Sling. I'm not sure which, but someone's asking, have tried using Switcher Studio with multiple iPhones for cameras?
Yeah, we did that for a while. You got to have a strong Wi-Fi, and I don't just mean a strong internet signal. You need a good Wi-Fi router, and you don't need anybody else on it because it was pretty quirky. And then we've been off of it a while, but I've noticed some people commenting in some of the threads about audio issues. And they're trying to use audio in from their soundboard, and apparently it's fidgeting with that. So I don't personally know now, but that's something to look out for. I like the idea of Switcher Studio. I wish it had been perfect, and I might not have had to purchased all that Blackmagic equipment. And I want to say, is it right to use Blackmagic gear in the church? Because it sounds like a lot of people have a lot of Blackmagic in their churches. So I don't know.
You got to turn it to good.
Yeah.
You got to pray for it before you use it.
Yeah. Well, I think, and side by side, I put Switcher Studio and Sling Studio, and what I call is traditional versus untraditional. Traditional is the 3-camera setup or 2-camera setup, a switcher, an encoder, and then a broadcaster out. And then you have these things like Switcher Studio and Slings and my Sling Studio. And I'm gonna have a chance to be hands-on with my Sling later this week. I'm gonna help a church install it. But my Sling is just like Switcher, except that my Sling provides its own router and hotspot that you have to buy for $999. But it overcomes the bad part of Switcher Studio, which is I'm relying on my own internet and my hotspots and my internal network, whereas Sling Studio lets you use their hub and their hotspot and does all that connectivity for you, and also lets you bring in other cameras that you can buy you can spend a lot of money on Sling Studio, but you can buy the Wi-Fi packs to connect to their hub for your regular cameras as well. So I hope that answers that question. We talked about discipleship, and I really, as we're winding down, and if you have a question, please put it in the chat or say something. But talking about discipleship, but also in this time as new people have found the church, what are some ways that you've done assimilation or connection with new people? Whether that's we have a video that we pre-recorded that send them to YouTube to watch this video, or we have a Zoom after church with just for new people. What are some things that y'all have done or have seen as ways to connect with people for the first time the past 2 months?
We do a virtual lobby first 5 minutes before we start. And so we get our virtual greeters, and as soon as that countdown timer starts, they're constantly talking, greeting everybody. And then anybody who enters that room, they'll either shout their name, just say, "Hey, we're glad to see you this Sunday." And that's usually kind of how we do that. And sometimes we'll do 5 minutes after the video's over.
Well, on a practical thing, so where do y'all do y'all stream to, and where do you do the virtual lobby at?
So we do Facebook Live right now, just because that's where most of the people are at. That's even though it's a quality issue for someone like me, but we use it because of the people. And so we upload there. We'll either do a stream or we'll do a premiere. Just depends. We've been in the habit of doing premieres now because even our pastor is consistently like, he wants to have it as best quality as possible, because you only have 30 seconds to win somebody over, whereas you used to have an hour and a half for a service if they were new.
And then where do you do so how do you do the pre-lobby ahead of that? So do you do that on Facebook Live as well, or do you do that somewhere else?
So we do that on Facebook Live. What I do is if we're doing a live stream, we have countdown timers. We'll have a countdown timer before service. It's 5 minutes long. It's kind of got some intro music or whatever. Just make sure that it's not copyrighted music. You will get flagged. And then also, if we're doing a premiere, when I'm cutting in Final Cut Pro, I'll just slap it to the beginning and then render it in automatically. And so that gives 5 minutes for everything to kind of make sure that the stream is working like it's supposed to, and make sure that everybody gets on at the same time, and it just kind of makes everybody kind of flow and condense and to finally be on the same page.
Then you said something that spawned a question. So ask this, the simple application to use for a countdown video. So I'm assuming, Andrew, you're asking like how to put it all together or where to find countdown videos, because you also asked about adding lyrics to the live stream for worship. So first off, I will start here. I'm going to do the second part first. The lyrics to live stream have to deal with, depending on what kind of switcher or what kind of encoder you're using. I don't know what different guys are using. I know, Matt, I was watching y'all stream earlier. What do y'all use to put the lyrics on?
Before we're doing everything pre-recorded right now, so I put the lyrics in over the video that way right now. But we had it set up. ProPresenter was sending the lyrics to OBS through NDI, and so it was just taken. So you have to take the stage display of ProPresenter, and you have to key that black out, and puts the lyrics down at the bottom, and you have to do that. But it's just a few simple steps that you can find on YouTube. Of course, how to set up NDI through, and that was how our setup was. But then also, like for countdown, if you want to go into that, of course, if you're not familiar with church motion graphics, of course you can have a lot of countdowns there that already has royalty-free music on it, so you don't have to worry. I know I've seen some that have hit different threads online, but for the most part, we've never had any issues about their music getting flagged from any of their countdowns that we've used or any of that kind of stuff. But a lot of stuff, like we just took our pictures and events and stuff, trying to make it to where people could kind of feel like, hey, look at all the events that we've done this past year, and compiled it into a countdown video, and use that as kind of like our 5-minute bumper before the service actually begins.
Yeah, Devin.
I actually want to just add to that question, really, because what we're noticing when we get into analytics is during our 5-minute countdown, the remaining the people who actually get on and stay on just plummets during that 5-minute countdown. I mean, just abysmal. I know some churches have gone to 1 minute. This past week, we actually tried to have like a lobby, which basically announcements up front, so something was there whenever they came on. But I don't know if we really moved the needle at all. I'm wondering if anybody has had luck with something up front that's actually not losing people like crazy.
Were y'all seeing that metric drop off on Facebook? Do y'all stream on any other platform?
We do.
Okay. And I want to make sure the question gets answered because I'm curious too. We Facebook is just, it's like a whole, we almost like it's like a different thing. Just the way people interact with it, they scroll past it. It's versus like the intent of someone watching our live stream or YouTube even. Like we have high, like average watch times on both on our platform and on YouTube. And Facebook's like a minute and a half. And that's just because the average people are just going to scroll by. Facebook's counting that. I'm like questioning Facebook's metrics like big time. Like we only use their unique views, never have. It's a ridiculous number. So I think some of it is just understanding like that's Facebook too. I mean, because you're basically factoring in people that are scrolling through a thing and they're getting counted in that thing. So it looks like people are dropping off fast. That also could be Facebook's algorithm promoting your video. Now I think what you said is true. Like, can we figure out a right way to grab their attention? That's genius. Let's do that. But at the same time, like I also just put a big old grain of salt with Facebook's numbers because it's like a roller coaster ride of engagement, and every other platform is more like a standard curve, like you would expect to see. So I don't know, man. For me, it's worth looking at and analyzing those metrics, but I don't put a ton of stock into it. We're not trying to make too many decisions around it. I'll let your question stand because I'm curious if anybody else is doing anything different countdown wise or trying to do something. Our pastor's doing where he's up on stage at the beginning of the service, just introducing kind of, hey, here we are, guys, let's get ready to go. Like just kind of a real simple thing. We think that's helped some, but other than that, we haven't made any changes. We still have a 5-minute full pre-roll for our streams across all platforms.
I want to hear the answers to that too, because I've noticed the number drop at the beginning, but let me just interject on Facebook metrics. I don't even look. My mom will text me every afternoon and tell me how many people watched on Facebook. And I just let her enjoy it, and her thinks on it is awesome. But our only Facebook metric is I have one of our hosts or greeters or people that log on, and they jot down every 5 minutes the live viewers, and then we average that at the end. And I mean, I don't even know if that number works, but it helps us keep up with how many people are viewing on Facebook.
Right.
So if we're average, if there's moments in there where it's 200, they just write that down every 5 minutes and just gives us that kind of number of live viewers that we held on to for the 60 minutes we're on. And then, the fact that 5,600 people watched our service last week is just bogus. If that was true, I would lock the doors forever, and we would just stay on Facebook live stream. That's all we do. But, anyway,
ultimate form of flattery, right there.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, I think you just, and what you know is yourself. Like, so one of the things I would say, going away from the online service, if you're just doing like a during the week Facebook Live engagement, I think one of the worst things you can do is say, "Hey guys, so good. We're gonna wait just a few minutes here, let people hop on to Facebook Live with you, because the people that are already there may not make it 2 minutes with you. You might lose them because they're going to just be tired of it. So the best thing to do is when you start, just start. And people, if they missed it, they can go back afterwards, especially if you said, hey, we talked about this at the beginning and you can watch it later. It's going to be posted there. So I would say that goes into service too. I've seen a couple churches do the countdown roll, but have things popping up during there. So it's like, here's what's happened this past week. Here's what we're doing. Hey, have you thought about this? We're going to be talking about this. Either someone's engaging them, like it's a pre-recorded video announcements during that roll, or it's some things popping up or pictures popping up from different things to keep people engaged. Because I don't know how many people are going to land on your page and then think, I'm going to stay here. It's kind of like the commercial thing. They're going to switch channels while there's a commercial on, knowing that, well, I'll come back in 2 minutes. But then what you don't realize is you might find something while you're waiting that time to come back and then miss coming back. Does that make sense? And so I think as soon as you start rolling, have content out there, whether it's just some kind of graphical announcements, whether it's someone talking or something, and then let people that miss that part, they can always rewind and go back. If that makes sense. Yes, that's all. Jonathan.
Yeah, I looked at some examples of some Facebook videos that I thought were really impressive that had calls to action. because there's a different environment. People are used to having a plate passed to them, but here they actually need to know.
Was that me or did we lose him?
We lost him.
Okay, well, I think I'm gonna, and if he helps
How to
back
do
in.
that. How to.
Jonathan, I'm losing you. We'll try to see if I see what you're saying, and then come on. But I think the phrase
he
there.
did post two links in the chat too, so that may have been where he's headed with it. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and I think this is a marketing tool. And David, I think you probably use some of this language. Some churches use this language, but the call to action, whether that's a marketing tool or a button or something to push, something to do,
right.
It's something you need to put into your church service and have that thinking. What's my call to action going to be, and have several of them throughout the message, throughout the online experience, whether that's during worship, a call to action, like encourage them to react, or even during your message or different things, have that there, because that keeps people engaged and keeps them going. For kids, it's easy. The kids pastors my kids are watching, they have a scavenger hunt right in the middle of the thing, and I'm on Sunday afternoon. Next thing I know, my kids are running around the house trying to find a hairbrush, trying to find something, because there's something for her to do and engage with. So whether that's saying amen or putting something in the comments, and going back to analytics, if you say, hey, let me know you agree with me, say amen. You can go back and look at all those amens, like what Derek's saying, having someone there watching, counting. Okay, there's 400 people that said amen. Okay, well, there's 400 people at least checked in enough to do that. And we're talking about Facebook. You can do that on YouTube, some different things, chat. YouTube analytics are better. And I think if you can ever embed that Facebook video on your website even or somewhere else, that's a great thing. And I said the W word, so I'm going to go there as we're getting close to wrapping up. If you don't have a website yet, I would say please get one, because it fits into this whole hub thing. Because Facebook is great for the moment. We've talked about how people will scroll, though, and move on. If you can get them off Facebook to your website, you've now got them and kept them, and have this whole thing that you can do, whether that's about your church, what's going on, what's happening after COVID. I know several churches have done this. I'm just going to pick on Lomax, because I looked at it earlier. Their whole page, they had a page there set aside for COVID-19, and it put all the important things, where our services are, what's going on, how to still give, how to connect, all in one place. That's probably elsewhere, I'm assuming, Matt, all over the website elsewhere, but you put it all in one place for this one purpose, right?
Yes, we did, and we pretty much hijack whatever Highlands does. That's the first place to go. I'm like, hey man, what's Highlands doing? And we have other churches in our area that we connect with, and try and just connect together as in different denominations and things, and trying to just what best we can do for our community and all.
And how many other guys leveraged your websites in this season, just as a selling point of why you should have a website?
Well, I will say this too, because we did have talking about Facebook. We had a few people talk that they didn't have Facebook, and how can they view, because we were just going Facebook Live strictly there, but so then we incorporated it into our website, and immediately, like the first Sunday, we've seen about 25 or 30 people that just watch it on our website or through the app that we have, and we use Subsplash to do all of our web hosting there. So and they're really intuitive and really great, kind of interlacing the app and the website and all that sort of stuff. So, but we had a few reach out, say, hey, look, how can I watch the service, because I don't have Facebook. And so that really kind of just pushed us to go towards, hey, we need to get this on our website, and because we wasn't pushing it to YouTube or anything. I know you don't have to have an account or a user account to watch on YouTube, but you do have to have an account, I think, to view on Facebook. So that definitely helped.
We actually experimented that on Facebook when this all started, and we figured out a way to do that where you don't have to be logged into Facebook. The way you're doing it is better. Embedding it in the website is actually a better way anyway, if that's what you wanted to do. But there is a way to, it's basically you go to your page's Facebook link, and then just append the /live to it. And we tested this, it worked great. So that's kind of that's where we're like linking people to. That way they still are offered a login at the top, but like they're actually watching the video without having to be authenticated. So it worked for us a few months ago. I don't know if that's still the same. I haven't had any complaints about it. But embedding certainly a bit better way to go.
I will say this, one of the things that Facebook has just released anyway, they released in their release notes, I think about a week ago, that that they're actually making changes just specifically for live stream, and Android users particularly, which they're the most hardest people to deal with anyway. I'm just kidding. But in saying that, they actually have made it super available for Android users to get on without having to have a Facebook account. We use Facebook particularly and don't put it on our website right now. And then we also don't do YouTube simultaneously because we're trying to not divide our numbers. I know that sounds really weird, but having all of our engagement and people in one place, because we're a church of 150 to 200 people. And so if we divide ourselves, we get less notice on the algorithm, and then just the more we can kind of compound our people into one location has proved to be a little more successful. But I will, in saying that, in an hour after our service is over, it's already uploaded to YouTube and then, everywhere else.
So keep it on the website thing. I'm just curious what, if y'all can tell me where y'all are using, or where y'all suggest a church that doesn't have a website, where would be a good first stop for them to start building a website?
Squarespace.
I'll say this. I worked with a lady who had built the University of Alabama website a few years ago, and she told me, I think she gave me Weebly, and she goes, I built their entire website because I can now give them the keys to upload, to fix their page. Here's your children's church page, you can edit it.
Right.
Here's your youth page, you can edit it. And they don't have to take everyone through training of how to keep their own page updated.
Anyone else use other but Weebly, Squarespace?
I know too.
Yeah, Wix is great. Wix has improved a lot over the years. WordPress, search CMS, but yeah.
I love WordPress. I just hate putting a new church into that for the first time.
Right.
Well, as we're wrapping up, I wanted to, if there's any other questions, hop in, but I wanted to take the last 10 minutes and talk about expectations and managing them, because like we've talked about Facebook numbers, and if you hadn't known that before now about how they can be inflated some, you might have some expectations walking into your building. And I will say this, just because when we get legal permission to have church again, that doesn't necessarily mean everyone's going to show back up on that first Sunday. And kind of prepping for that. And if you have, again, guys, if y'all have any insight to that, you can add to that. But keeping in mind our expectations as church ministers and things is not everyone's going to show up on that first Sunday. And so I can't just turn off the digital church, because there's going to be a lot of people, whether they're afraid to be in a large room, they've gotten comfortable on their couch, or they're still hurting and not ready to face the church yet. There will be people that won't show up. Now, there will be people that are so excited and don't care and ready to be back in church. So there will be people there, but keeping in mind there will still be people on the couch. And so my question in this first part is, how do we, while managing expectations, create the excitement to be back in the building for those people that have gotten comfortable or are still not ready to commit to coming into a church? How are you going to handle them as you push them along to be back in a building?
I think part of that's just wanting to be back in a worship experience with everybody. We're actually in some weeks we're including our worship in our live stream, and that's fun. And that's but there's just nothing like being in that church, full of people worshiping with them. And I'm the sound guy, so I miss just having everybody and that energy in the room, and being able to play with certain songs a certain way, and push through things. Do all the fun things you can do. It's a lot harder to do that, to build that same kind of I guess, momentum, energy on the live stream. You know, week after week, I'll hear from people, I can't hear the bass, or I can't hear this, or I'm like, well, what are you listening on? My phone, my 8-year-old phone. Like, well, yeah, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of good bass line on that phone, buddy. So I've learned I trust my earphones. I have those connected, and that's what I trust. But yeah, I think just that, to me, that's gonna be part of it. Is people want to be back in that worship, have that worship, that fellowship, that time of being together. Being there with the music and feeling that.
So, is there any kind of there's any kind of marketing or kind of that kind of terminology how you're going to present to people? Like maybe I got saved the past month, and I've never even experienced the greatness that it is to be in church together. How can we bring people along to that point or remind them of how awesome it was?
I think it's been said in a lot of the meetings I've been in the Zoom calls, but just not going back to church as usual. Like we're targeting 60 minutes on live on Sundays. So, when they come back in, not going over 60 minutes, having that same energy, that same drive, same production quality. It'd be real easy to come back the first Sunday and get sloppy and have a lot of gaps. And I just think we got to maintain that production quality. So people that have been visiting on Facebook, visiting on YouTube, visiting through social media, whatever, they get the same thing they've been seeing there in the live version. And with that being said, not dropping what we're doing by live stream, not lessening that quality just because we're back in the building together. Man, if nothing else, this should have polished all of our social media, all of our live stream. It should have put us in a position to where that stuff is better. And I think we just got to be careful to make sure that we don't go back to church as usual. God forbid that, right?
Amen.
100%. That is it in a nutshell. We're all getting really good at digital, and that is the tool. We've been doing church online for a few years at Highlands, and it's been the front door of our church. Right now, it's the entire building of our church. So if it goes back to the front door, that's great. It's still the front door. So we still got to sweep it. We still got to make sure that people are welcome. We still got to make sure that that's most people's first experience with Highlands is watching online. And then they jump in. A lot of times they'll jump into a small group and then into service. So I think for us, we're going to obviously look at how the best, most life-giving way we can say it. But man, I don't know that we're going to put any kind of pressure on people. They're going to make up their own minds as to when they feel ready to reach in person in church. And at the same time, we've now really ramped up what they have available for them on the digital side as well. And so the church has changed in this, period. So there really isn't there's not really a going back to the way things were. And the churches that will have the most success in reaching people for Jesus in the next season will use all those things. We'll use our buildings, and the building is a tool. We use our website, the website is a tool. We use social is a tool. And understand how each of those things are mediums we can use to reach people for Jesus. Paul wrote letters. If he was here today, it'd be, Facebook and live stream and, the whole thing. It's just, it's a medium. Obviously it's opportunity. For me, it's just been opportunities. I hate the crisis, the pandemic. I wish we weren't going through this. At the same time, it showed the church, and I'm actually really, really proud of the church. At large, the response to this has been phenomenal. And so you can probably, look at your product or your situation or whatever, and please don't get caught in the trap of comparison. Just literally make the next week, make it better, and realize, man, it's an opportunity. Every single minute is an opportunity. You don't know who's going to click on. I talked to a lady last week from Wisconsin who watched one of our prayer services, literally a prayer service, not even Sunday service, watched a prayer service online. Her daughter didn't know at the time. She said that the Lord told her to pray to break the bondage that Satan had over her daughter's life. Her daughter was 13 at the time. And this was 2 years ago, actually. And she popped on our growth track this past Sunday and shared a story that she started praying that 2 years ago. And 3 days later, her daughter confessed to her mom that she was suicidal. The daughter was suicidal. So she kept that prayer going. That broke off her daughter. That spirit broke off her daughter. and literally she hasn't had a suicidal thought since. She's 15 now. Hasn't had a suicidal thought since. That started at a prayer service online, not even a church service. So, I mean, we've got so many stories. You can't underestimate, the power and the opportunity that you have, and you don't know who's clicking. You have no idea who's watching at any time. And when you're writing that sermon, if you're a worship leader, when you're singing that song, you got to have that person in your mind. That's the person you're introducing to Jesus in that moment. And man, if you do that, God's going to bless the effort for sure. So,
well, I think, and kind of going along with that is talking about managing our expectations, but also there's been this more access they've had to pastors and people in churches than they've ever had before, even with the doors closed. Pastors doing the Bible studies during the week, doing a 5-minute thing during the week. And those things shouldn't go away. Now, you can't probably do one every day and still everything else. So you have to find out where that medium is going to be and how you're going to pull back. It can't be just, okay, this week I did 5 of them, this week I'm not doing any. I think having some kind of connection at least once a week that way has been amazing for most people, and they've loved it, and they don't want that to go away. So there's been some good things that have happened in this time, and this thing that's come out that we've been forced to do that people have loved, and we should keep those things. One, because it gets people connected more so, and there might be even more avenues and things that you're running a digital and a online, and not digital and online, digital and a brick and mortar place, but how we're fusing those together and some of the things that we've done together to bring more people. And the nets have gone farther than they've ever have before in this time and bringing people in. And then I will say this and let everyone wrap up. But when you're thinking about how to bring people back to the building, one, we're not going back to what we knew. We'll be back in the building like we were, but it's still going to be different. It's still going to be unique for the next couple of months. But even there's a marketing term, push and pull. The push marketing is, hey, boom, we need to be here. Boom, just it's in your face, it's there. But the pull marketing, which I think is where the church needs to be over the next couple of months, is pulling people in. It's testimonial stories. It's about how I was in the altar and God touched me. It was how this happened, how I found friends, how I found identity in Christ through meeting people at church. Those kind of stories, that kind of marketing, that kind of pull brings people back in and says, yeah, I do want to be in a group of people. And I do love that I can do my Zoom Bible study. I do love having online church, but I want to be with people. And it's that pull, because there's an innate desire in every one of us. I think God put in us for companionship, for connection with people. And so as we're looking forward to being back together, there are going to be some people that we've got to be pulled along, not pushed in, but pulled along, because I think we got to meet together. That's a need in us. I think the online's great, and I love it. There needs to be that touch, the real people in a real room, but we've got to pull people along and know that we still, I think David said it best, your front door is going to stay open online. Don't close it. More and more people have found your churches right now in the past 2 months from that online open door. It's been the front foyer of your church. Don't close it. Look for ways that we can improve upon it now. And then I would say improve upon it piece by piece. Don't jump in and say, we're going to put all this money right here. Take what's working and build on that. Kind of slowly put pieces in place. Look to the future. Don't go, because we still don't know in 6 months, we might be back in this place for a relapse, or in 6 months, some of the things that have happened financially now might catch up with your people and you might have some money drop. So plan ahead accordingly, and don't go, oh, we're going to sink all this money in now. There's steps that you can do to get to where you want to be step by step, and not have to rush it through and find yourself in a hole in 2 months as well. And as we're wrapping up, guys, do y'all want to add anything or any last questions or things you want to say?
I want to say something. I haven't heard it talk much, but just concerns about the singing inside of the building, and the emission of infected air is very like coughing, and some will avoid that. So some states would require wearing a mask, and then it goes with the preacher too. Sometimes preachers spit when they preacher or whatever, but I'm just saying that, like, I talked to my wife today who has asthma, and she said I would be open to going to a church service where everybody was far apart, everybody's wearing a mask, and it's a home group basically. and meeting there. But apart from that, I'm out, you know. And the other thing is, when you consider who's coming, it's not just the vulnerable who are not coming, it's everybody in their family who are not coming, because they don't want to affect their grandma or whoever, or their mom or whoever that is. So when you calculate how many are going to be here, that can also be a factor. I'm just going to drop a link as far as some other cautions to be aware of.
Thank you, Jonathan. Well, guys, thank y'all so much for sticking through this and being here and answering questions. I'm going to post this to YouTube later, and if you still have questions, you can reach out on Facebook or different ways to connect with us. And I know part of the mission of what I do as a U.S. missionary is helping churches navigate this. So would love to connect with you and share how we can go farther and go further with what God's doing in your church and your vision. But guys, I'm gonna kind of end this, but thank y'all so much for being here.